Never thought I'd see this day in a day in my life. I never thought it would come to this. But some people are saying, I told you so. I never thought that it would come to this, but some people are saying, I told you so. Is Ben Shapiro, conservative commentator, also turning against Candace Owens? What? Listen, we got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation. It took for an Israel conflict to then separate and divide what people thought was an unbreakable bond based off of similar views when it comes to conservative politics, right? So Candace Owens, thank you, Dewan, I appreciate you, recently appeared on X, formerly known as Twitter, and she was on Tucker Carlson's show. And Candace, a very pregnant Candace, is a very dangerous Candace because I have seen her take no L's over these past few months. But she continues her world tour and she continues to have a conversation about what she means or what she feels is right across the board. And apparently it does not line up with Ben Shapiro. Let me bring you guys up to speed of what's happening.
The internet was dominated yesterday by video of Ben Shapiro, who you work with at the Daily Wire, I think it's fair to say, attacking you. Here's the video. I just want to get your reaction to it.
Yes, the question is about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So maybe there's a point in the video.
Ben Shapiro said she still works for my company. My company, yes, she still works for my company. She's my employee. And she's disgraceful, and her false or faux understanding of the situation and her ability to be able to communicate it effectively is disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. Now, come on, y'all. Listen. You can't talk down on the people that work for you like that. You can't do that. As an employer, as a person that considers yourself a boss, as a person that owns the company, you can't necessarily talk down on people like that. Not while you're in support of them. Listen, what you do is, if you are not in an online debate or you are not disagreeing on a specific subject, keep it on a subject, but you can't start making personal attacks. That's not cool. In no way, shape, or form do you publicly start making attacks on somebody. Personally making attacks on somebody. Again, you're not standing on what it is that you're saying as far as the subject specifically. We can disagree. But when we start making personal attacks on each other, come on, Ben, you're supposed to be better than that. You're supposed to be the leader. You're supposed to be the owner of the company.
He explains what exactly you did wrong and how you were wrong. I haven't seen it. But to call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, we disagree, or I don't think she's correct, or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks. Yes. I don't think it helps further discussion. And that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with. I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Is he?
Candace is one of the most dangerous women on the face of this earth. And a pregnant Candace is even more dangerous to people on the face of this earth. Candace Owens and her ability to be able to maintain frame and not move in the same way, because again, and this is what we got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes, not all times, sometimes silence and not going back and forth with the person, depending on the circumstance, can be golden. It could be more effective and it could be more dangerous. And when you let somebody just basically leave themselves on an island to be criticized based off of where it is that they stand in their character. See, we can't have a difference of opinion without you calling me disgraceful, having ad hominem attacks and starting to attack my character as a person instead of standing on whatever it is that you disagree with me about the specific subject that we're talking about. When she's standing on Bidney more than the man that she allegedly works for as far as him owning the company, that speaks volumes. Be careful. Be careful.
He texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have made it.
Toy, I'm going to try my hardest.
Something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagree on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly remarkable.
Vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was pro the COVID vaccine. I was anti the vaccine. You know, we were all.
Did y'all know that? I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was pro and she was no on the jab. I did not know that. But I guess that things were kept under wraps because you can have a difference of opinion. And just because you both see things the same as far as your conservative views towards politics or who you want to vote for president does not necessarily mean that you're going to agree on every single thing. And that is normal. It is normal for you not to agree with every single thing that the people around you are saying. There's people that disagree with me every day that's around me. I don't even like the same food as some of the people that's around me. That don't mean that I'm going to personally throw them under the bus or that they're automatically a bad person. That means that they have the ability to think for themselves. I don't see what the problem is. Why do you start to, when you tap into an issue that's passionate for somebody, you'll start to see them come out of frame.
Idiots for not getting the vaccine. So that's totally fine. I am totally open to people having a difference in opinion.
Right.
I would hope that amongst colleagues that it would always be a civil disagreement. And I would never in a private event stand on a table and talk badly about Ben.
It's just it's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time, is what you're saying?
He has converted his opinions. He's accepted responsibility. He said, I was wrong about the vaccine.
Oh, good.
He is, obviously pro-pharma. His mom's a doctor. And I say to people, I'm very aware of my perspectives on Big Pharma, and I talk about it on my show openly. And I think that that's a tremendous credit to the Daily Wire that they allow a difference of opinions. But I as I said, hope that it would remain respectful and that you wouldn't throw your colleagues under a bus, so to speak.
I think that's fair. And just for clarity, because I really don't know, is he your boss? Does he?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about Ben's involvement. He's not the CEO of the Daily Wire. He is not making the day decisions of the Daily Wire. And I do want to make it very clear because people are like, how could you possibly save Daily Wire after this? I have a very good relationship with the co-CEOs of the Daily Wire. Especially right now, the acting CEO is Caleb Robinson. He's a wonderful person. He's worked very hard to be where he's at. We have a lot in common that we connect on. And so people don't get to see that, which is unfortunate. Ben lives in Florida. He's not a part of the day-to-day movement of the Daily Wire. The rest of the hosts have their shows situated in Nashville. So we see each other every day. We talk. There's great camaraderie. And there's actually more agreement. There's actually a lot of people that are, as I describe myself, just pro-America first. And I think I've been that way consistently throughout my political career. Whether people agree with it or not in different moments is up for debate. But I don't want that video to become a reflection of how the Daily Wire works and the Daily Wire operates, because I have had a very good experience with the CEOs and, love Michael Knowles, love Matt Walsh, Andrew Klavan. We all get along really great.
Well, certainly
her ability to communicate effectively is unmatched. Incredible. I think that she is one of the most intelligent public figures that I've ever seen in my entire life. Ever. And she's saying, listen, Ben is not necessarily involved with making decisions as far as the day-to-day operations of the Daily Wire. there are co-CEOs. Now, Robert, you said you told me because Ben wasn't the owner. Yes, Ben Shapiro is an owner of the Daily Wire. You can own something and then you can have CEOs, right? And people that fill different positions, presidents, CEOs, vice presidents, directors, right? You can have people fill different positions within the company, but the CEO is not necessarily the owner of the company. So the CEO is the top decision maker. As a matter of fact, for most publicly traded companies, and this is the thing that y'all have to understand, and y'all need to understand business, right? For most publicly traded companies, now the Daily Wire is a privately held company, meaning that they have owners and then they have CEOs that basically run the day-to-day operations or make the decisions on what's best for the company on a daily basis. When you have publicly traded companies, what happens is the people that own the shares of the companies are the owners of the companies. The chairman, which often at times have a large holding in the company, or the board members are the ones that then make the decision on who the CEO is going to be, including their pay package and whomever it is that's going to be the representation of the company, the face of the company. So just because somebody is the CEO does not mean that they're necessarily the owner of the company. Okay? So remember that. When somebody says, "Oh man, he's not the CEO," I told you, no, that's not what it means. It means that you can be an owner, you can be a co-owner, you can be a whole owner, but that does not necessarily mean that just because somebody else is the CEO that they're the owner of the company. I need y'all to be able to divide out and understand exactly how businesses work, okay? Now, an owner can also be a CEO and the president, but it just depends on whatever role that he wants to take and whether it's a publicly held company or a private company, right? So you got to take that into consideration. It's a lot of people that own Tesla. A lot of executive compensation comes along with stock options or percentages in the company. A lot of times when you look at lawyers, they become partners, they become part owners. Often at times they have to buy into, and they warn them ahead of time that, hey, eventually you're going to become partner or you're going to become a senior partner. Then this is the amount that it's going to cost for you to continue to share in the profits and continue to grow this company and this firm, right? So y'all have to understand exactly what it means to be a CEO and an owner. And also on top of this, it does not mean that Ben Shapiro is right. Does not mean that Ben Shapiro is right. Based off of what's being communicated on this clip from Tucker Carlson interviewing Candace Owens, she's still remaining above board. She said, listen, I got a great working relationship with the entire company. It's not necessarily a reflection of what the day-to-day decisions is making of the company. Ben Shapiro is his own person. He got his own opinion. And I don't agree with the ad hominem attacks on my character, but I'm not going to return fire because, again, that's more of a reflection of him, not necessarily a reflection of who I am. All right? Phenomenal.
It speaks well of the Daily Wire then. So it's not, I mean, a clip like that on the internet, oh, Candace Owens is out or something. That's not, doesn't sound like that's what it means at all.
Yeah, no, it's a small group of people. We see each other every day.
Right.
Brett Cooper is another one who just joined about 2 years ago. She's great. She's up and coming. And there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. And that's why I think this video is even more unfortunate, because people see him as a figurehead, rightfully so, of the Daily Wire. And it allows people to, speak energy into the Daily Wire that isn't necessarily there because he's not there on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's very interesting. So if we could take 3 steps back and give us the context for this debate, how are you on different sides of it? I haven't heard you endorsing Hamas, like you're not. No. Well,
I have not endorsed Hamas in any way, and yet people have interpreted things that I
Christian.
say,
I'm gonna read that,
or
Christian.
actually
I'm gonna read that
things
shortly.
that I don't say. It's becoming very much reminiscent to me, and why I have used my platform to say this, of Black Lives Matter, where if you don't say anything, they say your silence is violence. If you say something and it's even-handed and it's nuanced, which is to say, during the times of Black Lives Matter, you might say, I don't support police brutality. Who does? I don't support racism. Who does? But also, I think that police are a crucial part of every city. We need to have policing in cities, so these calls to defund the police are immoral and wrong and are going to lead to more Black deaths. People didn't want that nuance. When following George Floyd, there was no nuance. You had to explicitly say defund the police. You had to post a Black square. If you didn't post a Black square on Instagram, by the way, specifically on the platform of Instagram, and you maybe were busy that day, maybe you were in another country, maybe you just didn't log on to Instagram, you were accused of being a racist. I'm seeing a lot of that behavior right now when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a conflict that I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious.
Right.
Who would not condemn innocent Israelis dying? But if you then say that it is also sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies, suddenly this is pro-Hamas, or you need to say, even when you're talking about how sad it is that a child dies, you need to button that statement by saying, but that child was a human shield. That's not going to be my response. First off, as a mother, that's not going to be my response as somebody who is about to give birth. When I see these images of children involved on both sides of the conflict, I've pointed to the people that are mocking dead Israeli children and said that they are horrific. I am even keel on this matter, and yet people think that you need to be extreme. So people that have become more radical and extreme are perceiving a moderate stance as not enough. And
because I was about to say, people can disagree with you or agree with you or whatever, but you certainly don't seem radical on this topic.
I'm definitively not radical. My stance has not changed in terms of whether or not America should be involved in this conflict. Whether we were talking about Afghanistan, my comments have been clear. They've been documented for years. Whether we are talking about Ukraine and Russia, my comments have been clear and they have been documented. I mean, you can go back to me even talking about NATO expansion before things erupted between Russia and Ukraine, and having a meaningful discussion about how much expansion is too much expansion. How would we feel if we had troops on our border? These are things that should be allowed in an academic discussion. You should be able to sit on stage and should be able to debate these ideas without using ad hominem attacks to say that you're a pro-Putin puppet or you're pro-terrorism. Even in the aftermath of 9/11, something that we all remember as part of my childhood. I think I was in 7th grade at the time, and I'm born in the New York City area, so this was a very big deal. If a person the day after 9/11 wanted to debate the Patriot Act, it's not fair to call them terrorist sympathizers.
No.
Actually, they would have been proven right in the long run. That act, we gave up a lot of our freedoms. And I think there was only one congressman, a Republican, that was against the Patriot Act at that time. So it's important, actually, when you start making decisions in a highly emotional time, that people sit down and have these academic debates. And there are people that are saying, no, it doesn't matter because people are dead, that you need to just choose a side. And that needs to be it. It needs to become tribal.
And basically what she's saying is that two things can be true at the same time. You can have sympathy for a child that is used as a human shield as a result of the conflict, but then at the same time, I can condemn the attacks that then basically started this entire fallout in the first place. And so because everybody is forcing everybody to take a position, or they say that your silence is also a support for whatever it is that they don't necessarily agree with about whatever conflict is happening at that particular time. And she used the 9/11 in hindsight situation in order to illustrate her point. I think she articulated herself pretty well. I think that she's communicating really well. I think that she's basically pointing out the hypocrisy of the fact that part of what they stand for as conservatives is being able to have an opinion that may or may not differ from yours, but it's also freedom of speech, and it doesn't necessarily reflect my character. It just means that I have a difference of opinion, and I'm open to the conversation instead of shutting myself off and saying that this is the way that things should be. I think that she's absolutely right, and I think that it's unfortunate that she works at a company where somebody labels himself as an owner. I don't know what percentage he has in the company or not, but where somebody labels himself as an owner, but then he's continuously having conversations and throwing attacks on people personally instead of having a conversation based off of where she stands on a position of the war in general with the additional context that she's adding into it. It's unfortunate, but I think that she's smart. She's incredible. I think that she understands exactly where she stands within the company and also on the spectrum of what's happening in social media. And there's no way in the world that Ben Shapiro can see himself as being right in this situation just because he is owner or just because he holds a particular position when it comes to this whole Israel problem in the first place. It's silly. It's silly to be conservative, but then to try to censor somebody and say that they're disgraceful personally for where it is that they stand on any particular issue that you may or may not disagree with. We understand that it may be personal to you. We understand that this may be a big issue to you because of the cultural differences, but we're not going to separate what it is that Candace has been doing. Candace has been an equal accountability smoke giver the entire time that she's been a public figure in the first place. As a matter of fact, Candace Owens stands so far into the truth, not your truth, not her truth, but the truth. And I've even disagreed with some of the positions that Candace Owens has had on certain issues, but she stands so far into the reality of what the truth is that it makes you uncomfortable because you can't necessarily take a stand against her. You have to attack her personally. And when you start to see people get attacked personally instead of professionally, basically criticizing your position on something versus actually attacking you personally, that's a female trait. That's a feminine trait because you're letting your emotions control you. And it's a difference between being emotional and passionate. Everybody has emotions. And everybody can have passion and be passionate about whatever it is that they're talking about. But very few people are able to control their emotions in order to make a smart, informed decision. And this is why they're now at odds. I never thought I'd see this day. I never thought I'd see the day, especially from somebody like Candace Owens, who has taken so many hits from people in the black community that don't even necessarily care for her because she's not by default liberal or a Democrat, and she supported Trump. I think that that's a sign of a smart person that is under the covering of her husband. So that's currently what's happening. I will keep an eye out for what's happening with regard to Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro.